Hey, it's Len. In this video, I'm going to briefly cover workflow. This is a little bit of a just getting started video to show what is possible. And then in an upcoming video, I will get further into all of the different options. But workflow is actually pretty easy to set up once you know what is possible and just get a little bit of guidance around how to do it. So consider this your crash course into workflow in Zoho CRM. All right, so workflow, like a lot of other options, is done via the setup menu here. And just to kind of give us a scenario for what we might want to do with this, and just workflow being a process of automating something is a really loose description, I guess, but it's one or more actions that has a particular trigger and sometimes some criteria as well. So examples of that might be when I create a new contact, send them an email. Or when I put in a new opportunity and move it to the quote stage, automatically schedule an activity for 2 days later, that kind of thing. So the kind of repetitive, time-consuming things, or the way of kind of establishing things that we might want to do but just don't always take the time to. For example, like the opportunity. Like it would be great if we had a list of all the activities that we need to do to follow up, but it takes a few extra steps and we've got to really be diligent about getting that done. So workflow is a great way to kind of just look for those triggers and take some kind of action for us. All right, so that's exactly the example that I'm going to build. So I've gone into setup here and I will find this under automation and then workflow rules. And there's one rule in here by default that you can take a look at. It basically will allow you to send an email if there's a deal over a certain size. It's pretty self-explanatory once we see how workflow works. But I'm going to create a new one here. So I'll create the rule. And we have to pick what module this is for. So what is going to trigger this workflow? Is it something about a contact record? Is it a deal? Is it a particular account? And to be frank, a lot of the workflow in CRM is going to be deal-based. If you've been on CRM for longer, yours might be called potentials. So I'll say that this is for the deals module. Okay, so in my example, when I put a deal in and then I set the stage that I sent a quote, then I want a follow-up activity to be scheduled for, let's say, 1 week later. So I'll say follow up after. Quote is the name of our rule, and then if I want to expand on it further, I can put additional details into the description here beyond the name. And so I'll hit next. Okay, now I'm going to cover this in more detail on each of these options at a later date, but essentially workflow can be triggered on a record action. So a record is created, it's edited, it's deleted, or a particular field on that record changes. Okay, on a date or time can be based off of any date field. So 3 days after a record is created, or if you put a date on there like someone's birthday or a mortgage renewal, something can happen a certain number of days before or after that. And then scoring is newer, but it's been there for some time now. Scoring allows you to score different records based on criteria. So based on the industry or the size of the deal, you can score points, and then workflow can be triggered when you arrive at a certain number of points, either high or low. Okay, so just for today, we're going to go into a record action, and we want to know when the stage changes to quoted. So in this case, stage is a field. So I will say when the field is updated, and I want this to repeat whenever this field changes. So if for some reason we drop to another stage and then back to the quote stage again, we would trigger this again. And I can check up to 3 fields. So if I wanted this to fire when the stage changed, or maybe when the close date changed, I can do that. In my case, all I'm concerned with is the stage. And then I need to set the criteria for this because I don't want an activity scheduled every time the stage changes. I only want an activity scheduled when the stage changes and the stage is now, it's quoted, that's not the exact term, but stage is a proposal / price quote if we're using the stock out of the box list of stages, which you certainly can and should customize. Okay, this is my demo account. Okay, so now I've set the criteria there. So here's our trigger. When the stage field changes and the stage is proposal / price quote, then we have all kinds of wonderful options here. And we can either set them to happen right away, or we can have a delayed action. So, and there's a slight difference. It's not super obvious, but I can put a task in here today that has a due date that's 7 days out, and it'll show up on my task list right now. Or I can schedule an action 7 days from today to drop a task on my list, but I won't see that task until that scheduled date has arrived. So similar options between the two. It's just the things that we do here are going to happen or get created immediately versus scheduled actions. Similar options, but they will happen at a scheduled time. All right, so now I want to create a task, so I'll click on task here. Okay, and then this is sort of like a template for creating the task, and so I'll say follow up. And one of the cool things that we can do with this is we can merge in details from the deal or from the related contact. So if you want to put in the task, follow up with, and then the name of the person, hit the pound symbol here, change this little drop down to contacts, and then grab first name, and then same thing, hit the pound symbol to trigger this, up with, and then grab the last name, follow up with first name, last name. You can put the company name in there as well, or the name of the deal. I'm just going to leave it at that, follow up with, and then I want this to happen at the trigger date, which means when this got kicked off, when the field changed, plus 7 days. Okay, the status, we'll leave that at not started. Priority, I'd like to be high, but I can set to whatever priority I want. Assigned to, yeah, this is my demo user. I haven't changed the name yet. This is a new demo account. So the name of this user is user1. And then I'm good with that. If you're familiar with the other activities options, you can do things like set the reminder or notify this if this gets assigned to someone else. So if this was, if I was updating the stage and I set a task for someone else, I might want to tick the option to send them an email reminder when this happens. But that looks good. So I'm going to save and associate and hit save here, and that's it. Okay, I'll hit save and this is good to go. So when the stage changes to updated, when the stage is updated rather, and then the stage is proposal/price quote, create a task for me that says follow up with, and I'll have their first name and last name, and it'll be 7 days out from today. So we'll hit save. And then we'll do a quick test to make sure that works. So I'm going to go find a contact here. All right, so let's go. I've got the demo data loaded up. So I'm going to bring up Chris's record and just create a new, actually there's a deal in here already. I don't know why the deal is called King. That's sort of weird, but anyways, and I'm going to back this one up. I took this stage out of my pipeline, so this one is sitting at this stage. I'm going to just move it to the proposal and price quote, and then if I go to another screen and come back, or even just refresh this should kick in, and we should see, here it is. We're going to open activity, follow up with, it's got Chris's name in there, and it is scheduled for, today is April 24th, so this is going to be due on May the 1st. Shows me that it's not started and it's assigned there. Okay, so there are all kinds of things you can do with workflow. I'm going to get into more details and come up with different scenarios in another video, but for now I just wanted to get this example out there to share with you, and hope you find this helpful. If you have questions about it, feel free to post that in the comments below, or other workflow related things you'd like to see. I'm happy to help.